guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Thursday. Philadelphia's made yet another pretty interesting move here. They've signed a defensive tackle in Kentavius Street, former Saint. We're going to give you guys everything we know about the signing, obviously how much money it's potentially going to be, and the impact it's going to have for the NFL draft. So this is again, an interesting signing here. Howie Roseman is doing things that he doesn't normally do. Now, he obviously does well in free agency, but he's signing these kind of potential guys. And by potential guys, I mean guys who were drafted like, oh my gosh, he's going to be a very good player, either had injuries or underperformed, and then are resetting their career in Philadelphia. And you can see what they're trying to do. It makes a ton of sense. So Eagles Wire has the whole situation here, and here we will go. Quote, the Eagles are adding even more depth to the defensive tackle position after agreeing to a deal with Kentavius Street. Street was a fourth-round pick by the 49ers in 2018 out of North Carolina State. Adam Schefter says the Eagles are signing former D-tackle Kentavius Street per sources. He racked up 6 sacks for the Saints last season on 518 snaps he played. That's not true. It's 3.5 sacks, as we'll see. Typo there by Schefter. Either way, now joins safety Justin Evans as a second free agent this offseason to go from New Orleans to Philadelphia. Now, here's the example I was just talking about. Here's a player, as we see from Eagles Wire, who was injured his entire rookie year, trying to reset in Philadelphia. Quote, Street missed his entire rookie season, but flashed terrific potential as a situational defensive tackle for the 49ers in 2021, recording 3 sacks, 7 pressures, and 6 tackles for a loss. A versatile 6'2", 287-pound athlete, Street can play defensive tackle and edge rusher, and last season logged 3.5 sacks for New Orleans on almost 600 snaps. What does that tell you? Rotational defensive tackle who is going to be reliable. Even though he was injured his rookie season, he's been very healthy ever since. And that's kind of the theme I'm getting here with the Street signing. Now, this isn't a Hargrave replacement. Philadelphia seemingly is not going to go out and get one big Hargrave replacement. Everyone wants Jeffrey Simmons. Sorry, this probably tells you it's not going to happen, although I've been wrong on that sort of thing before. This tells you they're going to be defensive tackle, much like they are with defensive end, by rotational committee. You have Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett comes back at defensive end, obviously Hassan Reddick as an outside linebacker pass rusher. They have a bunch of guys to rotate in there, and you also throw in guys like Patrick Johnson as well. Same goes for defensive tackle, as we will see. First, though, the stats overall, again, 2019 draft pick, didn't do much for San Francisco as a 4th-round pick. 4th round is kind of that interesting round where you're not expected to start right away, but you're not a 6th or 7th round draft pick, so you got to contribute, and that's kind of where we find Street. What I love here is the games, right? He was available for 15 games in 2020, for 17 in 2021, and 17 in 2022. And again, it's 3.5 sacks over the past 2 seasons. As a defensive tackle, that's pretty good because most defensive tackles not named Aaron Donald or Fletcher Cox don't get a bunch of sacks. They're more there to stop the run and get a little bit of interior pressure. But the numbers here are pretty good. 29 combined tackles, 13 solo, 5 TFLs, 8 quarterback hits. There's nothing to hate about this overall signing. Now, we don't know the money yet, but if I'm guessing, it's going to be a 1 or 2 year very, very cheap deal, just like the Justin Evans signing was, just like the Terrell Edmunds signing was, like every other. So Rashard Penny signing. I mean, they are going out there and have a very clear idea in mind to bring in guys who will be elevated by the roster that is behind them. And that, to me, is a very interesting idea. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It has the potential to be very, very lucrative if these guys play above their very cheap 1-year contracts. So now your entire starting defensive tackle position overall looks something like this. Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis, you have Marvin Wilson, you have Milton Williams, and then you will go ahead and insert Kentavius Street as kind of the 4th guy. So really, you have 4 defensive tackles, and I know Tuli Poliotu, I always mess his name up, and Noah Ellis are also there as well, but really it'll be Davis, Cox, then it'll be Marvin Wilson, Milton Williams, and then you'll have Kentavius Street rotating in there as well. That's 5 serviceable defensive tackles on the defensive side of the football. That tells me they're probably not going to draft Jalen Carter. Now, does it mean if Jalen Carter falls to 10, Philadelphia for sure will pass on him? I don't know. But to me, this is an indication that they're not going to go with a defensive tackle at number 10. The same way that Terrell Edmunds, I think, was an indication Brian Branch was no longer an option at number 10. Doesn't mean they won't go D-tackle later in the draft, but to spend that much draft capital at a position group that now has some pretty decent depth just doesn't make a ton of sense, which would give more fuel to the fire of an edge rusher or more fuel to the fire of Bijan Robinson, which of course is the most polarizing name in all of Philadelphia sports right now. So this to me is a really good signing. It's not going to do anything crazy for the fan base. Like, people aren't going to watch this and be like, oh my gosh, I got to go talk to all my friends about how we got Kentavius Street at the water cooler tomorrow at work on a Friday. It'll be like, hey, this could be a good signing. We're going to wait and see how it goes. But it goes back to this theme and this idea of defensive players who were productive, who played a bunch of games and didn't have a lot of injuries the past 2 seasons, but are coming in under expectations, hoping to overperform the contracts that they were given. I mean, think about everyone they've signed so far. Nicholas Morrow, talk about a cheap deal for a guy who played all 17 games last year and yet is not considered a great middle linebacker or inside linebacker in the National Football League. Again, Terrell Edmunds, very productive, played all 17 games this past season, but do you say Terrell Edmunds is one of the better safeties in the National Football League? No, but if he can be elevated, then obviously there is some really good potential there. Greedy Williams, another great example of that. A very good depth corner. Justin Evans, often injured, but potential to have some depth there as well. And now they go ahead and bring in not Milton Williams. They bring in Kentavius Street to add depth to the defensive line position. So this is going to make the draft fascinating. As I said earlier, I don't know what they're going to do at 10. I mean, you would think trenches, but they've done a lot of trench work so far in free agency, and they keep adding to these depth positions. It's going to be a very, very interesting next couple of months as we start to get a little bit more rumors on where Philadelphia is trying to go. I did a show earlier today showing you who were some of the top 30 draft visits that Philadelphia has had into the NovaCare complex over the past couple of weeks. They've only had reportedly 6 or 7 people, but they're starting to kind of form a pattern of looking at towards the defensive line and offensive tackle position, but with them adding these sort of players, who knows what Howie Roseman is going to go ahead and do. I think we sit back and trust Howie, as everyone seemingly has done for the past couple of years, except for a couple of years ago when we were all saying Howie couldn't figure out the wide receiver position, and then he figured out the wide receiver position like that instantly in one offseason when they completely changed the entire scope of the Eagle passing attack. But I'm going to sit back and trust him and think that it is a very, very solid move. So give a thumbs up for another signing, another thumbs up for another lower name, not going to say no name because I recognize the name from the 49ers, but a lower name, cheaper defensive tackle who can come in here and potentially give Philadelphia some good depth rotation and give them an ability to continue to move that defensive line around. That way people don't get super tired, and that way you get a lot of fresh bodies going in and at the quarterback. I am curious to see how Jordan Davis performs this year. I think this is an indication, not either way on how they feel about Jordan Davis, but this is kind of a big year for Jordan Davis. A first-round draft pick. He was really hyped up this past season, played very well until the ankle injury, and then didn't really seem like the same player and didn't get the same amount of snaps, especially when they brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. So this is going to have an impact on him. Hopefully it pushes him to be more of a starter caliber player, to play more than just 20, 25, 30 snaps a game, but I think it's going to be good news overall there for the Eagles. So just want to jump on here and get a quick look at this new defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. Anytime they make a move, we got to at least mention it, whether it's a massive move like trading for A.J. Brown or it's a little move like signing Kentavius Street. Welcome to Philadelphia. Hopefully you guys make him feel welcome and he turns into a much better player than what the Eagles probably paid him to be, and that is a rotational defensive tackle. I'm Thomas Mott. Thumbs up for another show here on a Thursday. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.